All right. Good evening. This is the council meeting for the Borough of Crafton. We apologize for a delay in beginning the meeting. We had a executive session prior to the commencement of this meeting discuss personnel matters. The day is Monday, July 13th, 2020, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Roll call, please.
I'm not sure the manager is back in yet.
All right. Mr. Amendola.
No, he's not in.
There's a phone number sitting in the attendees. It might be a panelist.
Okay. Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Saba.
Here.
Ms. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Crown.
Here.
Mr. Alo.
Here.
And Mr. Amendola in there at all? Just mark him as present because we know he's somewhere out there.
Sure.
Okay. And Engineer Minsterman's here.
Yes.
Did we get Russ? Did he
Not
make
yet.
it? Okay. All right. I'm gonna move forward. I'm sure they're gonna get logged in here in a second. May I have the approval of the bill list for July 13th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All that oppose? All right. Passage of the bill list. Approval of the minutes for June 22nd, 2020.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? All right. Do we find the manager? I really don't want to move forward.
Yeah, let's
Yes,
just pause
citizen.
until we find them. Get them in here. Fish them.
Yeah, we can move forward with citizen comments, but I don't want to move forward beyond the rest of the meeting without him. So citizen comments, please note that all public comments will be heard at the beginning of the meeting due to the online meeting format. At this time, citizens may address the Borough Council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record.
And I'll add that there's a little function that allows you to raise your hand. So if you would click the raise hand function, I will enable the speaking feature. Mr. President, no one has raised their hand at this time.
Okay, has anybody messaged Russ? Make sure he's okay. Because he literally
I just texted him the link just in case if he couldn't find it.
All right. I'll just move forward to the mayor's report.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just have one quick item. I'd like to thank the officers involved in a situation that they assisted a resident of the Borough of Crafton who had a bunch of money taken from him for a project that wasn't completed by the contractor. The police department got involved and they made direct contact with the contractor. And at this point, the contractor has given the money back to the resident. And the resident sent a letter and was very thankful for the help that the police department supplied.
That was excellent work. Thank you, Mayor. Moving forward to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing on the engineer's report has changed or been amended. The report stands as presented, but certainly if anyone has any questions related to the report itself, I can help by answering.
Yeah, actually, I'd like you to speak to what's occurred on Johnson Street and what we're doing since a notice went out on Savvy Citizen. The work was anticipated, and obviously a literal blockage was found. So could you speak to that, please?
Yes, good point. So what ended up happening is that project, from the time it was designed, probably took, I'm going to guess, 4 years to get to actual construction. And sometimes way back, it was delayed as a result of lack of funds. More recently, there was issues related to getting permission and signatures for easements. So just all in all, what happened during that time frame, from the time that it was investigated, televised, and designed, the condition worsened significantly to a point that now the proposed design can't be implemented. The proposed design was mainly lining of sewers in the backyards of the homes along Johnston and North Emily. And basically that sewer line finds its way through and under garages, very permanent structures that were constructed over top of the sewer line after the sewer line was installed, obviously. But it's very significant, and there's several structures. So lining was the ultimate solution, and it was available because of the condition of the pipe, which means the condition wasn't collapsed. Once the pipe collapses, you can't pass the liner through in order to inflate it and then institute the chemicals to react and inflate and harden the liner. So now there are excavations that would need to be done. Unfortunately, they're under buildings and garage structures. So those excavations can't occur now. So now we're looking at, where else along the line there are collapses. So there's some additional investigation work. Contractor's been put on hold and told to demobilize until we can figure out what a new design and what an alternate way to fix this problem is. There is one option, though, that we're pursuing, and instead of repairing the existing line, and we have to look at how this impacts capacity in the neighborhoods, is to actually close the line. And we may be able to do that by rerouting some laterals from some of the homes to different locations in existing lines, or to install new lines to accept these the laterals coming from these homes, whether they're downspout drains or sanitary sewer laterals. That's possible. The problem is that 24-inch line was serving as a relief sewer for the rest of the system. So that sewer would then activate whenever the rest of the system became overwhelmed. Then that 24-inch line, the sewage would be diverted there, and excuse me, and that would serve to assist in not having the rest of the system back up. So that's what we're looking at now, trying to figure out what capacity that provides, how it assists the rest of the system, what are other ways that we can provide that same capacity in a different route. So unfortunately, just because of the duration from the time it was designed to today, the delay in implementing the project just was too long, and the pipe finally did collapse.
Well, thank you for giving everybody an update. And it's just So reason why we're trying as a community to address these issues with our sanitary systems that combined and trying to make the investments. So as we move forward as a community, it's really important that we learn from these lessons. And sometimes we're going to be able to avoid it, and other times we're not. But Rick, you and your team have been doing a fantastic job of trying to come up with a solution to mitigate the circumstances. So thank you for that.
Yes, no problem. We're going to talk about that tomorrow at the engineering meeting. What are some of the options that are being evaluated, and let you know the specific project progress of that as well.
Mr. President, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Minsterman, is it common for these main sewer lines to go under structures, go under garages? Is there not easements for these?
No, very unusual. It's a clear violation of your code and any sewer line code. Whether you have an easement or not, I take that back. If you have an easement, then they're obligated to not construct. Sometimes you can construct on an easement with a permit. So sometimes you have an easement that they could encroach on that wouldn't interfere with the repair or replacement of the pipe. So in this case, either they were done years ago and no permits were issued, or they were done and permits were issued and allowed. It seems highly unlikely to me that the permits would have been issued allowed to cover a 24-inch sewer line. It's different when you have a swimming pool or a shed. Sometimes those can be allowed with the condition that if we have to make a repair, it's the owner's responsibility to remove those temporary structures. But
Right.
these structures are in no way temporary. They are permanent, and it's the elephant sitting on the mouse. We're not moving that elephant, so we're trying to find a way around it. And that's what all the work is for. But yeah, it is very unusual. You know, sometimes one structure will end up on a line. We've got several here, so not sure what happened. Probably very, very many years ago. So yeah, unusual to say the least.
Thank you. Is Russ in now?
I believe I am,
All right,
but
Russ.
only on my cell phone. I can't get in on my computer.
Okay. All right, Russ. Yeah, I wonder what the technical issue is there. Well, we're all learning through this pandemic.
Well, I need a constant invite each week, and I didn't get it, but it was sent to me on my cell phone, so that's the only way I can get in.
Okay, and I also resent it to your municipal email account.
Yes, I sent it as well.
Regrettably, I'm not getting it.
Okay.
But
All right. Well, I'm just gonna. I skipped my report. I'm gonna go back to my report, and then we will. I just want to make sure you were here before I started my report. So, as everybody knows, we've had severe storms over the past several months here in Crafton, and this past weekend we had a storm event that created a situation where a house off of Steuben had a tree go through it. It was not a Borough street tree. The manager has been working diligently with the Shade Tree Commission to address all the trees that were identified as needing to be removed, and the work is paying off. I just want to really say thank you to the manager for all the effort that he's put forth. I know there's a discussion item later down the agenda that he's going to speak to, but it's really to reinforce that we as a community are addressing our part of the tree canopy, trying to make sure we're removing the diseased trees, and we are going to be working with the Shade Tree Commission to replant them and selecting species that are appropriate as to minimize damage to curbs and sidewalks, and hopefully make the trees a little more manageable as they grow, and to avoid the issues where trees can damage structures. I mean, we're not going to be able to avoid all instances, there's still a risk to having trees, but the risks are not outweighed by the benefits. The benefits greatly outweigh them. So I just want to, again, say thank you to the manager for all the work he's been doing there, because it's a very emotional subject in Crafton. I actually got my start in Crafton politics due to shade trees. So again, just want to say thank you. The work of the manager and Public Works to keep up with the storms and continue to keep up with our infrastructure is very important. So again, thank you to the manager's office, Public Works, and the engineer to keep the ball rolling. The manager is going to speak here after the solicitor's report and give us an update as to all the exciting things that are going to be kicking off in the next several weeks. So Solicitor Corbel.
I have nothing to report other than to mention that we'll have a brief public hearing on the 5G zoning ordinance. And Mr. Lavasser, Mr. President, I would just ask you at that point to ask for anybody attending for comments in support or opposition.
Okay.
And then you can close the hearing, and if council would like to, it is advertised for a vote this evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Manager McKibben, without ado, you can proceed with your report.
Okay. Again, I apologize for the inability to get on the video, but I don't know. Whatever. I believe, and I came in late, that Rick probably addressed the engineering aspects, the Johnson, North Emily. I heard that at the very end. And the fact that the Signal Light project and the Grandview project are both being initiated now. I don't know if he mentioned that the park and pole improvement projects will be advertised next week, and we should have bids in within about 3 or 4 weeks. A lot of people have already called in asking for the bid specs, so hopefully we'll have more than a few bidders on that. Some of the things are involved in the motions, and I'll comment when they come forward. And some of the other things are in the discussion issue, which I'll comment at that point as well. The only thing I do want to say is we got a surprise announcement last week from the county, who initiated their own COVID request through PEMA and FEMA. We had one in, and we're waiting for direction, but the county initiative seems to be moving a little bit faster. I do have a webinar on Thursday to address, to find out how we're going to be able to access this money. Crafton will be eligible for $125,000. I'm not sure what the overall points are of what we have to fulfill to get this money. But I think having the county involved and leading the charge with the amount of money they have secured is a lot easier than dealing with PEMA and FEMA. So I'll let you know after the Thursday webinar, and that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Manager McKibben, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, and you and the engineer can chime in here. The 2020 road program is expected to start in the next few weeks?
It's supposed to start next week, as a matter of fact.
Okay. The South Grandview sewer separation project
is already underway, or ready to be underway, as well as the Green Light Go project with the replacement of all 4 intersections where we have the stoplights, probably from the 20s.
All right. Great. Okay. I'm going to move forward now with the business agenda. Motion on adoption of ordinance 1663, amending Chapter 225 of the Crafton Code of Ordinances, zoning to regulate wireless communication facilities located outside the public right-of-way and wireless communication facilities taller than 50 feet.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Do we need to have the public hearing first?
Yes.
I would suggest that we pause the motion and that we simply open the floor for comments for or against the ordinance. If everybody remembers, this is the second of two. Council adopted the right-of-way ordinance, which are wireless communication facilities within the right-of-way, shorter than 50 feet. We adopted that in early May. Council also adopted a pending ordinance doctrine as it relates to the ordinance you're speaking tonight. So it's technically been in effect for 6 or 7 weeks now. We did send it to the county, got little to no feedback, and you're considering tonight the same ordinance that you approved by resolution in early May. So, Mr. Lavasser, if you'd like to ask for comments.
Yes, anybody at this time that's attending the meeting online, please raise your hand and Mr. Aiello will set you up to speak.
So to clarify, there is a public meeting needed, even though we did pass the first part of this.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Mr.
there are-
President, there is nobody that has raised their hand at this time.
If there are no comments, then we could just continue with the motion that was already.
Mr. President, may I add something very quickly?
Yes, yes.
The only thing that's missing, and Mr. Corbel and I have had this discussion, is a fee schedule, which we also still lack on the first ordinance. I've checked around to many, many other places, and actually very few people, I found no one that has this ordinance. So I'm still looking for a fee schedule on this, and I'll be working with the solicitor to try to identify one that makes sense.
So can we move forward with this?
Yes.
If we don't have our, without
Yes.
the fee schedule?
Yes.
So if I could just chime in with respect to the zoning side, we do have zoning permits, et cetera. So I don't think there's any fee related to the zoning ordinance. As to the right-of-way ordinance that was passed 6 weeks ago, there are aspects of that which we should make a recommendation to council, Russ and I, with respect to the fees that would be necessary or reasonable. And we'll have to consult with our code and zoning officer to see what charges may come our way in order to ensure the borough recoups whatever fees that would be paid to those entities as well. So, but for the zoning thing that we're talking about tonight, I think the fee structure should be set and there wouldn't be anything unique to this. But with respect to what we passed several weeks ago, there probably are a different permit or two that we should amend the fee resolution to take that into account.
So at a later date, we're able to amend this fee schedule.
You can amend it every meeting if you choose.
Yes,
Okay.
it's all part of our fee schedule for the year, but we never had this before, so it's a new addition.
Those
So-
things are usually done right at the beginning or end of the year, but you can amend it during the middle of the year in a situation like this for sure.
Right, and you said that you've asked around with regards to our sister communities, and they haven't established a schedule either.
No, some haven't even thought about it, so I guess we're on the forefront of it. So it's something I just need to look into a little bit more in depth when I get that chance, and I will, because it's going to come. It's going to come to us, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Right.
cutting edge,
Yeah.
Mr. Lavasser.
Well, I was curious, or may I make recommendation, since Verizon Wireless is headquartered out of New Jersey, maybe we should check to see if any municipalities in New Jersey have established a fee schedule.
We will look into every possible way we can.
Or other states where they've begun deploying the technology.
There's at least one community in the North Hills that has something similar to this. I can send Russ
Okay.
talk to them.
Ordinance wise?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because I was almost, I thought I was under the impression that there weren't there wasn't a other community yet. So, okay, thank you. That's all I have to ask. Anybody else?
I just have a quick question. So this is so essentially this would give the borough a little bit more oversight in regards to the 5G towers. So it actually would benefit the residents and municipality, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. There is several regulations related to the towers, where they can be located, what they look like, et cetera. So in both this and the ordinance that you all passed back in May for towers that are in the right of way. And typically the 5G towers are small. They're not those tall ones, but sometimes the 5G equipment is co-located on the taller towers. So that's why we address it here as well.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All that oppose? Motion passes. All right, moving forward, motion to engage the services of Strategic Solutions LLC to help draft and submit an application of the Crafton and Ingram Planning Commissions to the Department of Community and Economic Development Municipal Assistance Program at a cost not to exceed $3,500 and to be split by each borough.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any questions?
We got a little more detail on this one.
This is to go forth with getting the grant submitted to DCED, Ingram and Crafton Planning Commissions interviewed Strategic Solutions or heard a proposal from Strategic Solutions. Gateway Engineers was initially asked by both municipalities to put forth a application to DCD for the joint zoning application. And Rick, I believe you facilitated getting Strategic Solutions involved. So both planning commissions gave it a thumbs up. Ingram Council approved. Now we need to, I think we're approving this week to move forward with the grant application. So they will be responsible for putting together the grant application. There are some things that we as a municipality are going to have to help out with. We need to get the letters or recommendation from State Representative Dan Deasy and State Senator Wayne Fontana in support of the application. But Strategic Solutions should be doing the heavy lifting and working with the planning commissions to get this application in. Hopefully, by middle of next month. I think we wanted to get it in, or they wanted to get it in by August 1st, but given the time to get approval from Ingram, we're a couple of weeks in beyond where they thought they were going to be. So I think they probably are going to be looking to get the application submitted mid-August at this rate, because it sounds as if the consultant needed at least a month to facilitate the work between the planning commissions. Rick, am I portraying that accurately?
Yep, that's right. And one other thing to add is that there is no application deadline. So it's a rolling application. So we don't have to meet a certain date, but we're pushing ourselves to get this out as soon as possible, to get it in the system, to hopefully get approved, and to begin the planning process to get the funds. I think it could be up to $50,000 to actually do the zoning ordinance review for communities and looking at an overlay district for the Crafton Ingram Shopping Center.
Right, and again, as we've discussed in the past, the real incentive for Crafton Borough is to get that overlay district for that important area down there in the valley of the shopping center. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All that oppose? All right. Motion passes. Moving to the next slide. A motion to terminate the employment of Public Works Superintendent Robert Kozrowski effective July 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Given Solicitor Corwell, given that this is a personnel matter, and that is there anything we can do at this time to discuss, or Solicitor Corwell?
Sorry, yes, there's comments permitted, but to the extent it would cross into privileged or executive session matter, we could recess to executive session to discuss it.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to call for the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? All right, moving forward, motion passes. Discussions, Duquesne Light LED street light conversion program. We have the manager look into this. The program has been renewed. The manager diligently went through the borough to identify core areas. We've talked about this over the past 6 years about transitioning to the LED lights. The program had ceased, but now it's back, and we're going to take advantage of the full allotment. And again, the main corridors, and then looking at the areas where we have walking trails where there's lights. The Gateway Engineers is going to be putting together a map for our website to show where our progress is year over year. And hopefully we will see improvement with that. There's also benefit of the energy savings. So we will be incurring for 100 units about $11,000 in changeover cost, but there will be a cost benefit or a return on investment where with lower utility bills for the borough to run the streetlight program, and in addition will help out with putting lower loads on the system, though they're minor. Every kilowatt matters, especially during these hot summer months where we have stress systems. We've been in communication with Duquesne, and when you have an outage, please make it known to Duquesne. Do not stop calling them. Go online if you can. If you cannot get online, you cannot get them via telephone, you may reach out to the borough manager via email to make sure that we are addressing the outages. So far, they've been doing a pretty good job. But if you're sitting out there for a day or two without power, that's not normal. You need to, keep up with them within, every few hours just to check in. We've found that there have been areas of Crafton that have gone without power, and Duquesne didn't realize part of the grid was knocked out. So again, every watt matters here, and we're going to continue to work with Duquesne. They've sent out numerous newsletters and emails indicating that they're going to be updating the transmission and the grid inside the borough. So again, between the tree issues we've had with the storms and the severe heat wave that we had last week, there were numerous complaints in the community about transformers blowing and losing power and intermittent power. So again, we're working on that, and every watt counts, and we're going to do our part. And again, with regards to public safety, the LED lighting provides an improvement to visibility in the evening hours. So,
Mr. President,
Yep.
just a real quick question about the LED lights. So
Yes.
timetable, and I guess the manager cannot answer this question. So once this is submitted to Duquesne Light, is there a rough estimate on turnaround time?
The timetable for submission is September the 1st.
Okay.
The list that I gave you was just a suggested list. Obviously, it can be tweaked by others' opinions, of course, but I had 100 lights to deal with, and I looked at the main thoroughfares and came up with 100. But it's not etched in stone. We have till September 1. Implementation, they did not comment on when that would happen, but I assume it would happen before the end of the year. And the savings are substantial, by the way, as the president alluded to. Overall savings, not the savings up front.
And is this a program that we can yearly participate in?
They said it's a yearly program, but it did not happen to my, I think COVID interrupted their schedule a little bit. But yes, they really ultimately want everyone to switch over. It just makes total sense.
Great.
Right.
So maybe something, once we get this comprehensive list, we can look at other lights for the future too.
I should hope so.
Awesome. Thank you.
On that note, I just want to ask, these LED lights, these are basically the standard now in municipalities, correct?
Yeah. Everybody's converting over, and when outside of the program, it can be very expensive. But when
there are higher looms than what we presently have.
Yes. Yep. And the downward lighting. I mean, the engineer will be putting out.
And if we're outside of the standard now, we could potentially be putting ourselves at risk for liability for not meeting up to this new standard of lighting.
Yeah, I think I would have to leave that to the engineer, but I believe he's going to be putting together a model of what's going to look like where we are now, and I think it's going to just show the community that we're making the investments. And again, Duquesne's making it easy for us, and we just have to take advantage of the program when they're offering it, because on our own it would be a pricey
sure that was my question. Was just if we're not up to the standard, if we're below the standard, we're subjecting ourselves to possible liability if vehicles are getting into accidents because there's not sufficient street lighting.
Yeah,
I believe that might be something the solicitor could weigh in on. He's still
sorry. My mute is not cooperating too much tonight. Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Aiello's assessment there. I mean, if you're replacing any lights, you have to ensure that they're at least as bright as the ones that you are replacing. And, it's an opportunity to make these intersections and streets safer in the borough. It's a win-win all around.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. The next item, and thank you for the discussion, everybody, and contributing to that part of the conversation. This part of the conversation, the manager brought to our attention. We passed the shade tree ordinance, I'll say the upgrade to that, or the clarification of our responsibilities as a municipality. Again, the manager has been working to get rid of or trim and remove the trees in the borough that were dead or diseased. Some of these have caused areas of sidewalks to be heaving. It was addressed. Mike, you want to talk?
Well,
No, I was listening. I didn't know if the manager had something.
I do. I actually brought this on the agenda, and I appreciate the ability to speak to it.
Yes.
In my time here, I've heard numerous different stories as to how we treat this problem. Either we don't deal with it, or we tell the homeowner that it's their responsibility. Under the sidewalk ordinance that I'm familiar with, and I think we all are, they are responsible for sidewalk maintenance. The tree ordinance itself addresses the fact that it may or may not be the responsibility of the borough. It's kind of hedges its bets. I just need some guidance as to what council believes our responsibility is, because we don't have just one or two incidents of this. I bet you conservatively we have 24 of these situations, and maybe more, based on where these trees were planted and their proximity to the sidewalk. I just need some guidance as to, is it the borough's responsibility? Are we putting it back on the homeowner as the sidewalks are normally their responsibility? I'm just confused as to what we have done in the past and where we need to go in the future. So
Just for some quick clarification. So we're talking about the trees, the shade trees. So these are the trees that the borough owns and planted that are lifting up
yes,
resident responsible sidewalks.
that is correct, sir.
Okay.
Well, I would love to speak to this because I've been behind this my entire time I've been on council. So my view is the Shade Tree Commission, for the longest time, did not allow homeowners to address the trees when they were more manageable, and therefore allowed for the heaving of the sidewalks. And the question really is, whose trees are they? If they are the borough's, then the next question is, did the sidewalk heave itself, or did the tree heave it? Well, if they are the borough's trees, and obviously sidewalks don't heave themselves, and the tree roots heave the sidewalk slab, I would argue that they are our sidewalks that we need to, or they are sidewalks that we need to repair because our trees damaged the sidewalks. And again, it's not that the trees are bad. The trees provide an ecosystem service. So there is a cost to us as residents advocating to have a shade tree commission for several decades, or a few decades here. So with that being said, the cost of doing business to have a shade tree commission would be to in kind repair the sidewalks that our trees damaged. And again, these trees have fiercely been defended by the Shade Tree Commission for multiple decades. And that was the entire intent of the ordinance, to make it very clear they are the borough's trees, and it is our responsibility to care for them and ensure that they're being managed accordingly. So that is my opinion as a council person.
Yeah, I want to make a comment to Phil's point here. So when I first moved here, met Coletta, met Phil, met a couple other people in the community, and they advised me, that the borough was not responsible for the trees. I was like literally dumbstruck, because I'm just a guy. I come from a different part of Allegheny County where we had no trees. So, the idea that the homeowners who ostensibly would have moved into a house with a 50-year-old tree there, and then, not been responsible for its planting or the species of which was planted, the type of tree, to have them be responsible for it, to me, I was like, that makes zero sense. Because if you're going to have it both ways, then we should allow people to put whatever trees they want wherever they want them, and we clearly don't. So what I'm saying is to Phil's point, to summarize, I think that we as a community need to realize that maybe the sidewalks and the trees therein should be considered more of a common area. And we should begin to maybe think out of the box and think in that direction, as opposed to, it's in front of 123 Hawthorne Street, therefore it's that person's problem, when that person had no responsibility for the tree that went in there, or its maintenance for many years prior. And so, we pride ourselves on being a walkable place with many beautiful trees. And I think everyone in this room, everyone listening, everyone who watched this will all agree trees are good. said again, trees are good. So we're not talking about taking away trees. We're talking about just cutting down the ones that are going to knock out someone's roof and putting them somewhere else in the borough and putting the right trees in. And furthermore, I would prefer to see this borough take a more forward-thinking stance vis-a-vis the Shade Tree Commission. I think, you know, for far too long there has been, from my understanding, some kind of, fiefdoms there that have never been working in concert with each other, or maybe they have and then they fell out of concert, and vice versa as time progressed. So, you know, I think that we should set the policy. We will control the purse strings, and we want to put trees in the ground. We will work with the Shade Tree Commission when necessary. But I think that this council and future councils, of which I might not be on, I would want them to take the initiative with trees, cutting down the dead ones, putting the good ones in the ground.
And well,
that, I think
the question really is
No,
the responsibility of fixing the sidewalks.
right.
So
I'm sorry,
do you
Mr.
agree
President.
with fixing the sidewalks?
Of course, because to me, the trees and the sidewalks are part and parcel together. So when a tree takes out a sidewalk, I moved to a house, I'm up on Bar, I moved to a house up on Bar, I buy a house. Those sidewalks have been up and cratered and cracked for 15 years, 10 years maybe. I have nothing to do with that. So to say, hey, homeowner, not only do you have to fix up this Crafton house and pay your Crafton taxes, but let alone fix your sidewalk too. I mean, we're not asking you to shovel. We're gonna fine you if you don't shovel it, but you gotta fix it too. I mean, come on. I think it's a lot
After
to
our
ask
tree
of
damaged it.
Right, after our tree damaged it, it's a lot to ask these people, for sure.
Right. And again, the trees do provide a value. We're not saying they don't, and this is just the cost of doing business to have these trees.
Mr. President, actually 2 quick questions. So the first question is, if a homeowner were to remove a shade tree and fix a sidewalk on their own, what would they face from the borough? And the second question is, this might be towards whether it be the solicitor or the engineer, other communities that have similar things where they go and plant trees, who maintains the sidewalks if there's any damage caused by the trees planted by the municipality?
I could chime in. Okay, so I've dealt with this in other communities as well. To the extent that the borough tree is the tree that's caused the damage, right? Then the borough has a responsibility, even if there is a sidewalk ordinance that says general maintenance is to be performed by the adjacent property owner. Secondly, other issue to consider is, and it's depending on how far gone this issue is with the heaving, is that oftentimes an arborist would tell you that if you were to grind out the roots or whatever protrusion, it's typically a root situation, that could damage the borough tree to the point where it may not be safe to repair it in that fashion, and it should just be removed. Which that in and of itself causes a consternation because, you all have some pretty significant trees in Crafton that have been there for a very long time, and folks really like them. So a lot of moving parts to this, but at the end of the day, my view is that if it's our tree that's caused the damage to the sidewalk, it's the borough's responsibility to find a solution. And the nice thing is that if it's your tree, you regulate and control what happens to that tree via the Shade Tree Commission.
And if I may chime in just a little bit to Steve's point, and here sometimes it's a dilemma. We have extreme trip hazards in place with a very nice tree. Talking to arborists that have done some of the work in the borough, they've indicated to me that if they fix the sidewalk and cut the roots, the tree's going to die.
Right.
So you have, to Steve's point, we have this dilemma in some cases where do we build a bridge over it, or do we lose a tree, or do we allow people? I mean, some of the trip hazards are 3-4 inches in the air. That's one issue. Other issues is where we've taken the dead trees down and the damage is there and it needs to be repaired. That's I'm getting the idea that council says, yes, go ahead and get them repaired. That's pretty easy because the tree's been removed. So, yeah, there are two sides to this. I just need a direction as to whether or not it's our responsibility. And if it is, we'll take care of it. I've just heard conflicting stories from different people who have been in the borough a long time as to who was told what responsibility it is from different managers.
And we need to make the ordinance clearer. We should do that too. So Steve, maybe you and Russ and the Shade Tree Commission, we should have a meeting to just make it abundantly clear, and that the Shade Tree Commission provide recommendations before, they're supposed to make the recommendation to remove, and if there is an alternative to removal, because I will say, if the sidewalk is a imminent hazard, it's a hazard, it's not passable, and there are some of them like that, we have to come up with an alternative. So I've seen in other communities where the sidewalk's been bumped around and they've done some creative things and worked with the landowner, the resident, the adjacent owner, to allow for clearance, and everybody came away happy, and that's what they wanted to do. And it took a little extra effort, but everybody said, oh, we want to keep the trees, or they use asphalt to do the sidewalks to allow flexing of the roots, et cetera. There are options, and I think we need to have the Shade Tree Commission provide options. So the burden isn't wholly on the manager and council. That's the Shade Tree Commission is a partner in this. However, what we've done this year, I think we have at this meeting provided the guidance and clearance to the manager to fix the sidewalks where trees have been removed, where where we can make the sidewalk flatter, more passable, so we're not creating these terrible sidewalks where it's a rolling hill. If we remove the trees, we can do the proper excavation, remove the roots, put the new slab in, and we've spoken to the comprehensive plan, which is connectivity, walkability, and that's what people want to see here, with ADA ramps that are installed, functional, and sidewalks that aren't death traps.
Mr. President, so
yes.
Two things. One, if my original question can be answered, if the homeowner were to remove the tree and fix the sidewalk. And then the second part, for the trees that we already removed, when we go, and this is a question for Solicitor Corbel, is there anything that we need to set in place that if the borough is replacing the sidewalk, because the homeowner is responsible, or is it something that the manager can just move forward with without anything else that needs to be done?
Yeah, we could just move forward with those situations.
Right.
Then the homeowner is responsible for maintenance on the new sidewalk moving forward. But if we choose to replace it, we can certainly do that.
Right.
It's in the right of way. So,
Mr. Saber, to your first question, technically a tree cannot be removed by a homeowner until they petition the Shade Tree Commission.
that's
Right.
right.
And
So essentially we're saying, hey, homeowner, you're responsible for the sidewalk, but there's nothing you can do to fix the problem.
That is why we made it very clear in the ordinance last year what our responsibilities were as a borough. Because what would happen would be the borough would say, well, the tree's dead, a road program's going in, tree's dead, we want it out, and you're gonna have to pay for it. And they're like, well, that's not fair. I could have done something with this tree when it was much more manageable all those 20 years ago when I moved in here, but I got told no. So that was the intent of the ordinance, to make sure the borough was taking responsibility for what it put in place with having a Shade Tree Commission under the state borough code.
Okay. So definitely something that we need to revisit and get a lot more input from the Shade Tree Commission as to a solution with the current trees that are in perfect health, with addressing those safety hazards with the sidewalks.
Right. And in addition, I think we need to make sure that we have all bases covered we have two very, very active members of the Shade Tree Commission, but I believe we need to fill a couple spots there as well.
Correct.
Russ, I interrupted you.
No, not at all. The input's been terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ. All right, I'm gonna move forward with community announcements, if that's all right. Is that okay, everybody?
I just asked for like where we actually left this conversation. So if I understand correctly, we have said no brainer, trees that we've removed and sidewalks that are need repairing, we're just moving forward with. And it seems that the general consensus is that we should be responsible for the damage to the trees that to the damage to the walks by the trees that are our responsibility. Am I understanding that so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then, and you made a very excellent point, and I was glad to hear this, to talk about options beyond just, deciding that we have to remove the tree in order to get a level concrete sidewalk. So what is our next step to move in that direction to officially take responsibility for those walks, identify where they are, and begin to look at what the alternatives are, what the solutions can be to preserve trees or not?
So in the ordinance, it would be the Shade Tree Commission that we need to tell them what what the ordinance requires of them, and then to tell them that council wants them to begin exploring creative ways to address the trees, and where we can minimize removing them where we can, but we need to have that dialogue with the Shade Tree Commission, because that's where really the responsibility lays. It's with them to provide that policy input.
When we did the inventory of the trees last year, as an ancillary thing, was there some notation about which trees had caused sidewalk damage, or are we going to have to inventory that?
Russ?
I can address that, Ms. Perry. I do know the locations of where we have removed trees and where there is sidewalk issues. That I do know. Again, the priorities were, and going forward, it'll be a different priority, but the priority from getting that list was to get rid of the dead trees and the trees that were an obvious hazard, either by the homeowner and or traffic or whatever. They have been removed. Going forward, I will rely on the commission to advise me whether a tree needs to be removed after maybe getting a petition from a homeowner or whatever. But yes, I do know the sidewalks that need to be remedied immediately, and the trees have been removed.
Okay, but what about the ones that are still standing, have been deemed healthy, but we have significant sidewalk damage? I was just
again, that's to whoever. There's been a lot of input here, so whoever mentioned the fact that we really need to sit down with the commission and look over and look at alternatives and identify those areas.
Okay, so
and Season to Coletta, further, Season, who is on the Shade Tree Commission, I still think she's there, but she's also our code enforcement. She went to a class last year, and she took back a lot of information. And so there are new philosophies and just the simple thing is maybe using asphalt that the Shade Tree Commission as a body needs to now consider, and they need to sit down.
Right. I think my one question is, do we already have an inventory of healthy trees with bad sidewalks?
I don't think it's clear cut. I think we need to go back and
we do not
address that, because there are 3 up on Bar. Not only is the curb jutting out from the side of the street, like it's like literally in the lane of traffic almost, like. And then we've got the sidewalks are moguls, And the trees, if we cut down the trees, people are going to freak out. So we need to figure out what can we do.
Bradford and a number of other streets. So
Yeah, correct.
I was just wondering what's the status of the inventory of that sidewalks?
But-
No,
but-
Ms. Perry, I do not have that, but that's something I can I definitely can put together, but that'll take a little bit of time. But no, we do not have that, honestly.
But to another point, from my understanding, we have vacancies on the Shade Tree Commission. So I implore everybody on this council to advertise that and try to drum up some support and possibly other folks to help out the 2 other volunteers that we do have in the commission currently that are working hard.
Yeah, and there may be an opportunity to put together a internship to get a GIS tech out here student to do this type of project with the manager's office. So there's different ways to address it because obviously code enforcement can't do it all. I mean, Season's been very good at identifying these things, but I think the manager's going to probably have to come up with a strategy to provide the information that you're asking for, Coletta.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
okay, thanks. All right, I'm gonna move forward with community announcements. Borough parks are open and shelters available for Crafton residents to rent. The borough strongly advises that social distancing should be maintained and all rules and regulations set forth by the Commonwealth or by the county be followed. So that includes wearing your face mask in Allegheny County when you're outside and you're unable to maintain the 6 feet.
Yeah, I think Fred, no offense, I think Fred's talking. I hear him yell. I'm watching him scream he's yelling about something. So just so you know, just so we're aware.
Okay, can I finish what I'm saying? I think Solicitor Corbel, there's a restriction on the number of congregants or people. Is it 25? Parties of 25? All right. So just keep up with the Secretary of Health and County Health Department there. The borough office will remain closed to the public. However, staff is available during normal business hours and can be reached via telephone or email. There's a drop box in the rear of the building for any written correspondence. Any changes to this action will be posted on the borough website and Savvy Citizen. The Crafton Library will continue with limited hours for curbside only service beginning June 15th. So they've been doing a great job there. Please visit their website for further details. Crafton Borough will be having its annual fireworks display on Sunday, September 6th, 2020 at 8:15. So that's Labor Day, the weekend of Labor Day. There will be a Crafton Ingram blood drive and antibody testing at the Craftonian Hall next to Shupner McDermott Funeral Home on Wednesday, July 29th from noon until 6 p.m. Appointments are strongly recommended and can be made by calling 412-209-7000. The Crafton Ingram Rotary is sponsoring 2 fundraisers to help numerous charities they support. There's the Llama Plop tickets are $20 with winner receiving $1,000. They also, sorry, my light went out. They also are sponsoring a rib BBQ pulled pork sale. Raffle tickets and food orders can be purchased on their website or by calling 412-595-1026. Okay, Brad, you said something was going on?
I just wanted to let you know Fred was trying to get our attention earlier.
Okay. Is that it? That was the end of the agenda.
Yeah, he needs to fix.
He's saying no.
Fred's
I don't know.
waving.
Trying to
I
say
don't know.
something. He's having microphone issues again, I think.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Maybe if you wrote it down and held it up on a sign, we would see where you're at. Man.
Okay.
Fred is unmuted. I'm not sure if it's.
However he fixed the issue last time might be the solution this time. I'm not sure.
Do you have the thing plugged in? You gotta unplug the jack. Okay.
For the record, we're not muting you, Fred.
Yeah, you take your headphone out of the jack. I think that's a problem. Okay. All right. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to catch you on the backside there. Is everybody all right? I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. He's having technical difficulties. Okay. All right, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So thank you everybody for the discussion this evening, and we will follow up with you at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
See y'all.